Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle. It's Wednesday, 23rd of August, and today I'm joined by Ryan McGinlay at the Ryan McGinlay. Morning, Ryan. There will be tears, I think, here shed as we talk about your favourite player. But yes, that'll happen.
He's not anymore.
How are you, fella? You all right?
Yeah, I've had to console myself this morning when waking up to that news or those developments. Nah, I'm only joking. I'm doing not too bad. Tony, how are you doing? You all right?
I'm all right. Never arrangement at polls for Celtic at the minute. We've gone from
absolutely
gone from a summer of real optimism and hope. I won't say to despair, but there's the kind of
an autumn of discontent.
An autumn of discontent. Yes, indeed. I think that's a fair way of putting it. Anyway, first and foremost, guys, I direct you to the ticker tape running along the bottom of the screens, and thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure. And we ask you to subscribe to the Celtic Way website and help us, and you help us support top quality journalism in the process. It's all for the click of a button. Current deal is £4 for 4 months, I believe. Isn't that right, Ryan? And you hit a button if you enjoy what we do in the briefings and everything that we write on the website. Hit that subscribe button, guys. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Now, here we go. Ryan, let's get straight into it. It emerged overnight that Celtic midfielder Reo Hatate has knocked back a new deal. He is contracted to Celtic until 2026. So read into that what you will, but lots of Celtic supporters having their say. Where do you stand on it, young Mr. McGinlay? What's your thoughts on your favourite player refusing to sign a new deal? Last week it was all positive, and that Celtic were about to open talks with Lille Abada and Reo Hatate about a new deal. Now, overnight it's emerged that Reo Hatate has rejected the chance of a new deal. What's your thoughts on that, first and foremost?
Yeah, I'm not too surprised, to be honest with you, just due to the, I don't know, maybe his demeanour over the past couple of weeks when you put two and two together. You don't want to talk about the body language too much because you can read into things that maybe aren't even there. But I wasn't entirely surprised. You look at his age profile as well. The guy's 25 years old, but he's a very young 25 years old. But he'll be thinking, what's the most I can get out of my career? Because, you know, at 25, you're sort of maybe just past your quarter point, maybe at 40% of your career, just coming into your peak years, 26, 27. So he must be looking, saying, right, if I sign an extension here, there's a risk that I might stay here for another 3-4 years and see out that contract if things don't go well. So I think he's covering himself with regard to not signing the new deal and basically putting out a message to every club that would be interested in him that he is available for the right price, because his contract is something that's attainable. I think most clubs could afford to buy Hatate, especially down south, but even more so with the fact that he's not signed like a new extension to bring it back up to 5 years or so. It's a disappointing development. I'm not surprised, but the same happened with Lille Abada earlier on in the summer, or just before. In fact, it was January time that he sort of rejected a new deal for Celtic, and then he's had this sort of resurgence in the Celtic team. You know, they might offer him improved terms again, but you know, in terms of optics and the way it looks, it is a disappointing development. But I'm not entirely surprised, just due to all the factors that go in, and with it, that coupled with the fact that I think he's got aspirations of playing down south. You know, Mitoma plays down south, who he's kept in close contact since their days at Kawasaki. I have talked about the Brighton link. You could talk about the Tottenham link. There's two very realistic moves for a player like Hatate to go to. So yeah, it's disappointing, but I'm not surprised, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs per se at the minute, but if his agent's saying he's knocked back a new deal, then you just feel that the writing's on the wall, Ryan, don't you? And it'll be a case of sooner rather than later when Reo Hatate goes. He has expressed his desire to play again in the Champions League, and he'll only get that at Celtic, so it remains to be seen if he leaves in the 9 days that are left in the window, or maybe Celtic hang on to him till January. But who knows, they might go back, as you say, Ryan, with improved terms, because if that's the crux of the matter and he's unhappy with his current deal, then you have to say that Celtic should, for what he's given in the past couple of years, improve his offer, if that's what's unsettling him and making him supposedly unhappy, or making him not want to sign a new deal. If it's the terms and conditions on offer, then Celtic can improve that. They have that within their power to do so. But if his head's out the door and he wants away, then I think you're fighting a losing battle and stuff like that, Ryan. And it's certainly an indication that if he doesn't want to sign a new deal, that maybe he sees his future elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it makes it easy for the board and maybe the recruitment team in terms of finding a replacement. The fact that they know that Reo Hatate has made it quite clear that he wants to leave the club, that means things will just be in motion. Then he'll move on to probably his next club. You would assume it'd be down south, either down south or a team in Spain or Germany, a top 5 league for sure. Because he says he was talking about that after the Gambo Saka game. I think those comments have become famous now. The fact that if there is a new challenge, then he'd like to seek it out and go. Where that challenge will be, don't know. I think he was alluding to the Premier League with those comments. You will see the fact that he's arguably his best mate in football. I know that for a fact. Him and Mitoma are really good mates. They were really close at Kawasaki. The fact that Mitoma is doing so well down there, I don't know if you've seen his goal at the weekend. Absolutely incredible. You know, it's what could have been if Postecoglou was in the door 2 weeks earlier. You know, Mitoma would tore it up in Scotland, to be fair. So yeah, it's disappointing. You know, he's such a great player, but I don't think that Celtic. I think they've got to keep him until January. It's one of those ones where he might want to leave, but Celtic have got to do their. Celtic have got to keep themselves right and keep him until January, because I don't think they'll find a replacement in 9 days. They've struggled to find a Jota replacement in a month, so I don't. I did have faith in the recruitment team, and I still do with regards to like your sort of project players or players that you can build into better players. But in terms of first team ready, oven ready players, 9 days to replace arguably your most creative midfielder in Reo Hatate if he was to leave the club, I think that's very, very unlikely. I think they've got to keep him until at least January. Given that exposure in the Champions League, he talks about wanting to play in the Champions League. He's got the 6 games. If he wants a move, he'll play out his skin, and then someone will make an offer he can't refuse in January if that's the case. But as it stands, I think Celtic have got to keep him. They missed his guile at the weekend, and that in that midfield against Kilmarnock. I think he can do things on the ball that not many players can do, or not many players at Celtic can do. He's just a different sort of specimen altogether. You don't become a bad player overnight. I know he's been in and out of the team, and I know he got injured, but I still think on his day he's Celtic's best midfielder. So yeah, very, very difficult to replace if that does transpire. But I don't want it to transpire until at least January.
I think most Celtic supporters would agree with you on that, Ryan, that he is Celtic's best midfielder at the club. It's just
talented, I would say at this point. Yeah,
I think I think just the news emanating when it gets leaked that he's not willing to sign a new deal either by his agent or himself, and then you put 2 and 2 together about the comments that he made in the summer, then you're kind of wondering if you were living on borrowed time with Reo Hatate, and then Rodgers coming in and he's not featured, it's all kind of making a bigger picture, isn't it? But there's no disputing his talent. No one.
It's the complete opposite of what I thought would happen, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I thought that Brendan Rodgers coming in would have given him that tactical maturity. The fact that Brendan Rodgers can tweak things in game, and he can see the best of players and improve them with his man management. I thought Reo Hatate would have been the figurehead to that movement.
Right for improvement, wasn't he? Reo Hatate was a player that was right for improvement under Brendan Rodgers, and I think that's where in Sunday's result, that kind of summer Summer kind of enthusiasm has dissipated a fair bit, hasn't it? And also Brendan Rodgers' recent comments himself about working with the players that the club gives him, which was a bit puzzling to me. And he's reiterated that again today, talking about how difficult it is to crack the English transfer market in terms of bringing in players. This is what Brendan Rodgers has said today. He says, I think that's why you see the strategy of Mark Lowell and the guys going to markets that were maybe untouched in the deals you can get in. You look at the Premier League or even the Championship, it's a very expensive market for players and wages. That is a real challenge for clubs like ourselves. Coming back here, that was something I had to understand better and why I took that time to decide. The club has to be sustainable while being successful, but it's understanding where it is at in terms of what you can and can't do. And again, this is what the crux of the matter is. I always work with the players the club provides me and try to develop them to be the best they can possibly be. This hopefully makes the club successful and allows them to move on, make money, and we go again. So he's reiterated the fact that, he works with the players the clubs provide them. But as I wrote yesterday, I need him to be a bit more hands-on, Ryan, and bring in the players that he wants and go and demand the players that he wants from the board. And I think Michael Nicholson and those board members took all the plaudits when Ange was around and doing their business. They now have to sort of turn around and say, okay, take some flack that comes away. If they don't manage to bring in, at least I still think they'll need at least 3 or 4 players before the window shuts. But then does that strike you as being, people say, they're panic buys? But I think Celtic have to do some sort of business before the end of the August window. If they don't, and then I think Brendan Rodgers and Michael Nicholson will certainly come under some real fire.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't want a malaise to sort of set in with regard to this, because there was such a good feeling, or it seemed as if there was such a good feeling from the vast majority when Brendan Rodgers did come back to the club. It was almost as if Celtic were sort of flexing their muscles and saying, right, look, we can just bring in arguably our best manager, or one of our best managers in the past 10 years, just like that. An elite level manager bringing back to the club. But I think it works with both ways. I think Celtic need to back their manager with more oven-ready players, whatever that means with regards to, they can still, oven-ready players can still be 22, 23 years old. You just have to spend a wee bit more for them. And then they fit the system. Like, they can be a project, but like an accelerated project in a sense, because you know that you know their trajectory. Their trajectory is really, really high, and maybe Celtic's only like a stepping stone for them, but you just know instantly that they're going to come in and improve the first team. And you look at guys like Jashari or Rieder, two guys that are in Switzerland and Austria. These are guys that could come in and instantly improve the team in the midfield. But I was saying it's in both ways. But I just want to see a wee bit more. I don't know. I just want to see a wee bit more fight from Brendan Rodgers as well. I don't know. I need something. I need not passion, but I just feel as if there's I don't know if he's holding back something, but he just doesn't have that same fire to him at the moment. I don't know if something needs to just ignite in order for him to get that fire back. But I don't know. There's just something not adding up at this point in time. I'm not doubting that he's fully 100% on the job and he's delighted to be back. It's just maybe it's just taking a while for the sort of fire to get reignited. Something needs to happen. Maybe there needs to be a couple of signings of note for him to get really, really excited about the job again. Because, he could have easily taken a year out.
Yep.
He could have taken a year out. He was talking about his sabbatical. The reason why he came back to Celtic wasn't to win domestic cups or the League Cup or the Scottish Cup. It was to do the bread and butter, which was the league, and improve Celtic in the Champions League or Europa League if they drop down to that competition. Make it worth his while. Back him, give him £6-7 million signings. It's not as if it hasn't happened before. I know they were both surefire. Whenever Celtic have spent that money over the past 8-9 years, it's always been on players that, apart from Julian, you would say, it's been players that have previously been on loan. So Celtic know exactly what they're getting before they part with that money. With Jota and Carter Vickers, I think it was 13 million for the two of them, 6.5 either way or around about that ballpark. For Edward, it was 9 million, but I think they were sort of that fee was agreed beforehand with PSG, and they had to spend the money. I just think that there needs to be 2 or 3 real quality signings in problem areas as well.
Yep.
And then I think you'll see the difference. It's like we scratch your back, you scratch yours. Scratch Brendan's back with regard to bigger signings, and I think he'll do the business, but he needs backed, and times of the essence. What is it? 8 days until the transfer window shuts.
Yeah. Well, one of those players is Daniel Podence, and according to Italian journalist, and it's not Fabrizio Romano, it's a guy called Rudy Galletti, and he's supposed to be a reputable Italian journalist. He's saying that Celtic have opened negotiation with Wolves over a potential deal for Podence, and he's saying that the Celtic are closely following the situation, and Celtic want to win the race for his signature. And he's spoken to Gimme Sport, and he said Celtic are to date interested in Daniel Podence. The Scottish club are monitoring with attention, but it's not a simple situation at Wolves. He has just 1 year remaining on his contract and has not been included in the Wolves squad against Manchester United or Brighton. He said Celtic and Wolves are now in talks, testing the waters in negotiation. The price tag set by Wolves is around 12 million, but Celtic are using his positions on the sidelines to try and lower his price. So that's what he's claiming. And I think if Celtic could get it down to maybe 8 or 9 million, they might be willing to do business, Ryan. And as I say, Galletti's a reputable Italian journalist. So if that's the case, then so be it. But deals take time, but that time is of the essence now, and it's kind of running out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those ones where Wolves are going to have to get to the point and be like, we need something for this player. We can't leave him. We can't let him leave the club for absolutely nothing, because I think they spent a good amount of money on him when he came from Portugal. He either came from Portugal or from Olympiacos. I'm not sure exactly on the sort of trajectory of his career, but I know that he played in both areas. Portugal and Greece. He played for Olympiacos, obviously. He's a player that I think would provide instant quality. 27 years old. He is different in terms of the model. Celtic can be going for 22, 23-year-olds. 21, 22, 23, that's the sort of ballpark. Then they can improve them and then sell them on. Podence is here to play. He'd be here to play just now, right now. In fact, if he was to sign on the Friday, I would expect him to play on the Saturday. I think at this point in time, you look at the competition he's got. Is it Haksabanovic, Maeda on the left wing? Podence is better than the two of them. He would go straight in. It'd be I think that'd be a Scott Sinclair-esque signing. I think that's an impact signing. But I think he's a better player than Scott Sinclair was when Celtic.
That's what I'm thinking as well, and I think the mood music needs lifted, Ryan. I think everybody is behind the manager and wants to see him do well. Well, I say everybody, the majority of the Celtic supporters are, but he needs the tools to do the job, doesn't he? And I think there's maybe some amongst the Celtic supporters who are, possibly delighting in the fact that the Celtic are struggling under Brendan and want to point the finger and say, "Told you so." Should never have brought him back, that kind of thing. But I mean, from day one, I've been excited by his appointment. I want him to do well, but I want him to do well given a level playing field and the fact that he has the tools at his disposal to go and do the job. And I know they've only lost one game, but the despondency and doom and gloom is, it's bordering on knee-jerk and overreaction. But it just seemed to be that for a while it was all good news. We were talking about the good news week at Celtic every other week, and now there seems to be some real negativity and bad news with players being injured, players like Reo Hatate refusing to sign a new deal, and deals not going through. And when Brendan Rodgers came in, I was quite happy about the squad that they had, and I felt Celtic would just pick and choose their moments to bring in those players, those first team players that would excite you. Maybe a Podence signing, something like that. Was quite confident that after they had said that they had money to spend, that they would maybe spend 7, 8, 9 million pounds on a marquee signing for Celtic, and it's just not materialised. And we are now 8 days away from the window shutting, and there is an air of doom and gloom and despondency. it shouldn't be like this, should it?
Yeah, I think it's a multitude of factors. I would say. I think the lack of tangible business in the transfer window in terms of ready-made players is one of them. I think the injuries are adding to it as well. The fact that Celtic get beat on Sunday, and the fact that there's not been a home game in 2 or so weeks as well. I think when you get a run of away games, like 2 away games in a row, I don't know. There's always a better feeling when Celtic play at home. I've always said, there's always that buzz of going to Celtic Park and watching the game. So when they're away from home, you maybe feel a wee bit further away from Celtic. The fact that they've got a home game, thank goodness that they've got a home game at the weekend, because I think the team needs that. The team needs the support of 60,000 behind them, or near enough 60,000. But I think it would be. I think it would be foolish to deny if it doesn't go well on Saturday, there will be a bit of an atmosphere, because it just feels to be building up. And I know the internet isn't a real place. It's not an accurate representation of real life. But there are a lot of people that are not that happy with the way things are going just now, especially with the. I think they made a target on their back with that stock exchange announcement, and I know they need to announce these things. That's just what they do as a PLC. But at the same time, it gives you a target. As I said, it means that you have to go out and do business. If you've said that you've got that money and those profits are coming in, then it's no use them just sitting there. That's going to make supporters annoyed if the money's there and it's not getting spent directly back into the team. If that's the case, then that opens the door. Where is the money going? Where is it? Is it just staying there, or is it going somewhere else? Is it paying somebody else? For Celtic, yes, I know Celtic are a business, but you want the best possible team on the park, and Celtic got 25 million for Jota, and you would expect that money to be going back. They had a war chest before Jota even left, so it's even more of a sort of war chest now, because that would be extra funds added to that. The money's there, they just need to spend it, and they need to spend it wisely.
And they also got money back for Starfelt as well, don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a surplus of money there. They've already announced that to the stock exchange and told people, so we shall see what happens. But I'm going to take some comments on Hatate's situation, just the situation in general. Celtic, lots of people getting involved in the chat, so we'll flick those comments up, Ryan. Yeah, Michael Ross, Hatate's under contract till 2026. Play him or sell him. Marquis saying not worried about Reo's contract. We were only going to get another year out of him at most.
I agree
Anyway,
with that.
he has his eyes elsewhere. Yeah, I agree with that too.
The only reason why you would sign him up to a new deal, I think, is to get a bigger fee.
A bigger
but
fee
even
from,
then,
yeah.
I talk about these bigger fees. It doesn't mean a thing if Celtic aren't spending the money. So
Yeah.
all these are just numbers to me.
Yeah.
I see value as value on the pitch, because we don't really see the financials off the pitch unless it's the AGM results or the figures. I see the value as value on the pitch. It's all well and good being a rich club, but you need to act like a big club on the pitch as well.
Yeah. And I don't really care about the values of players, Ryan. As you say, their value to me is with their playing for Celtic and producing the goods, and increasing or decreasing their value if they're not producing the goods. That's fair enough. But I just want them to be successful as they can while they're here, give their all, and then earn the move, which their play dictates. Ian McGregor, same as everyone else, if they don't want to be here, get rid. He feels that Hatate's been working his ticket for months. Chill Pulse says Reo stays, he's under contract, he'll be professional enough to give us another year. 2 years in the contract, we'll still get Celtic a good deal. Lots of comments coming in about Hatate. If Reo Hatate's indeed rejected a new contract, he needs to be sold as soon as possible for the highest price possible. We can't have any passengers, says Brian Walsh. James Smith, on you go. He'll be away in the new year. James Smith, on you go.
I think it's riskier to let him go rather than stay, because if he stays and he doesn't play well, then you can obviously take him out of the team. Celtic have got midfielders in the form of Odin Holm, David Turnbull, that can come in and do a job. Even Matt O'Reilly can play a wee bit deeper where Hatate usually plays. Whereas if you let him go, that's I'm losing my voice here. That's me getting emotional about Hatate.
How much it's affecting you, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I'm losing the ability to speak. But yeah, it's one of those ones where if you let Hatate go, what's to say that his replacement coming in is going to do the same job as him. I think there's too many risks and too many cons at this stage. I think to sell him, if you're going to sell him in January when his value is his highest, if he's done well in the Champions League.
What's to say they'll replace him in
I
the
know
8 days if they
they
do
haven't
sell
replaced
him?
Jota yet.
So yeah, Joe Hume music. It looks like Brendan Rodgers has a bigger, I think he means job than we anticipated. I agree with that. Pete McGee, morning Pete, how you doing? Why are people saying Hatate's not committed? Have they spoken to him? This is what happens when players have agent and club want to protect their asset. It's all part of the game these days. I get that, but I think Hatate's agent has done that deliberately. With 8 days left in the window, get it out there that he could be available, and any interested parties contact Celtic forthwith. James Smith, morning everybody. I think Reo has had his head turned and he couldn't care less about Celtic now. Celtic have to get him out the door while they can and get good money for him. And he hates saying it because he likes him, a bit like yourself, Ryan, but you would keep him to after the window. After the window, get him to January at least. Kevin Martin, if Hatate's not committed to Celtic, hoof him out. Danny Boy coming in says contracts mean nothing. There's always a way around it. Andrew Galea saying Hatate contracted 2026, 2023. He's hardly on the way out. And Danny Boy agreeing with yourself. Don't agree about him staying. Sell now. Well, you're saying sell him in January. Honestly, there's so many comments coming in. I'll read as many as I can. Ozzy, don't think Rio's the only one looking for the exit door. In my ball, Hatate now think there is trouble in paradise. Time to spend some cash on quality players, not projects. There you go, Francis PC Green. Priorities getting players in, getting playing style, confidence. I mean, people are just lining up here, Ryan, to have their say. We'll give them their say. If Hatate wants away, then bye-bye. No player bigger than Celtic. Is that him saying Hatate bye-bye? There you go.
It might be. I don't think we can. I don't think Celtic can afford to lose Hatate.
I don't think they can at this moment in time either.
No, I think he's at this moment, with the amount of time that you've got to find a replacement, I think he's irreplaceable just due to the parameters that Celtic find themselves in for the rest of this window. 8 days left. I don't trust them to find a replacement in 8 days. They would need to do extensive scouting. And even then, you don't know if they'll do the same job that Hatate did when he was in the team.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, if a ludicrous offer came in from like a Brighton, who we know Brighton have money because of Caicedo. They got over 100 million. I think it was 115 million for Caicedo. Tony Bloom does a great job at Brighton. That's how you model your club. Helps her in the Premier League, obviously, but they're a bit of a model club on how to buy and sell players. But we know that they've got money. So if they were to fork out maybe 25, 30 million, then there'd maybe be an argument as to whether or not you keep him at the club. But even then, it's got its pros and cons. You don't know if you're gonna replace him adequately. He's a great player. You don't become a bad player overnight. And the fact of the matter is, he's injured as well, so he's not even contributing to the team at the moment. So Celtic are having to do without him. It's basically the equivalent of selling him just now because you can't play him. He's not contributing to the team. So you're getting a bit of a taste. You're getting a bit of a test drive on what it's like without Hatate. And when he's not fit and firing and in that Celtic team, the team struggles as a result. He sets the tempo, and I don't think there's anyone else like him. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're struggling, is because Hatate's not in the team and firing on all cylinders when he is. I mean, that 20 minutes against Aberdeen, though, he was the best player in the park for that 20 minutes until he get taken off injured. He was running the show. The midfield looked a lot better because he was taking the ball. He's basically impossible to press, and he dictates things from the middle of the park. Then he get taken off, and the midfield looked very ordinary again. So yeah, it's pros and cons. I think there's more cons than pros at this point.
Thomas Gallagher saying no player's bigger than the club, so if Reo wants to go, then let him. Paul Andrew Martin, Hatate signed a 5-year deal, punt him next summer. Paul, come back in, do not offer him another contract now. My ball saying sell him, can't be bothered with all this content, I'm afraid to say it, but it's looking like there is an unhappy dressing room. Seamus Gallagher, I hope the board back Brendan Rodgers in the next week. If not, it's going to be a very difficult season. for Celtic.
Talk about the position of strength. This
Yeah,
is the strongest
yeah.
Celtic have been
If
in
Reo
years, I
Hatate
would say.
if Reo Hatate wants to go, let him go. He won't be the first. And Pete McGee saying, Tony, Reo Hatate's agent is not back a new deal. It's all part of the process. I know it's all part of a process, Pete McGee. I'm just saying when that kind of starts, then the ball starts rolling, doesn't it? And I think the writing's on the wall. But I'd be loath to sell him now with 8 days left in the window because I don't think he can be replaced in 8 days. So I'd rather sell him, as Ryan has also said, in January. Sean Bleast says, like most fans, love to watch Hatate play, but just prove yourself. But just tell him to prove himself and get his big move next summer. And Paul Andrew Martin says he should not be available till Celtic say so. I would go along with that. Francis PC Green, it's in Celtic hands. Hatate's a great talent. Enjoy him whilst he's here. Players come, players go. I am enjoying him, and as I said, I don't want him to go at all. But when you read these kind of things, you said there's no smoke without fire. I just think you're fighting a losing battle and trying to keep those players at your club. He's already said he fancies a challenge in the Premier League in England in pre-season. So I would say to him, whilst he's here, give us what he's got and earn that move.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, I think the big thing for me, and I think the thing that's motoring all of this is his age, because he's 25, but you know, at 25, you'd expect to have 200, 250, maybe 300 appearances under your belt if you've been playing consistently since you were, 18, 19, 20, that sort of age. Fact is, he's only played, 3 full seasons, 2 full seasons, and maybe a half season at Celtic as well. So, because of the university system, because he went and did higher education, he's not played as much. Yes, he did play for the university team, but it's not as if it's fully professional football. So he's basically like a 21-year-old, but he's 25. You know, it's a weird one. You see it in other sports. You see it in basketball. Players go to high school teams and then college teams, and then they'll play. But even then, they're quite young. But Hatate, he started his career basically when he was 22. So he's probably in his head. He must be conscious of the fact that he's like, my career won't last forever. And if I stay at Celtic, it is a good level. We'll be playing in the Champions League, but it's not the level that everybody wants to go to. I think the Japanese players see themselves as a sort of mascot for their country in terms of going down to England and proving themselves in the best league in the world. I think Thomas done that incredibly down there for Brighton. I know I've mentioned him about 4 times already. I think he's an absolute joy to watch. Hatate could do the same down there. I've got no doubt about that. I've seen players with that guile. He would fit the style down there to a T. So I think at 25 years old, he's conscious of the fact that his career, he's now entering his prime. He wants to play at his prime at the highest level possible, and this is just some moving the needle a bit with regard to his future. It happens, but Celtic have got to do what's best for them as well. Get the best possible price if he does want to leave. And if they don't get the best possible price, then there's no point in letting him go because they need to get something for him.
Then he stays. Because he's got 3 years left in his deal.
Yeah, Celtic have got most of the power here. I know players do have more power than they ever had in terms of the modern game, but Celtic still have 3 years. They can command a sizable fee for him.
Sure.
Because they still give out players. They give out 4-year contracts to players. I mean, Carter Vickers was on a 4-year contract. He's still in a strong position because we've still got 3 years left to get contracted to him, so they can still get a good fee for a player like Hatate. That's the joy and one of the pros of giving a player a 5-year contract.
Yeah. Now Brian Roberts comes in. We've got to accept that these players use Celtic as a stepping stone to more money. Get that. I have starred 55 comments. I'm not even halfway through them, and there's 111 live comments. Listen, guys, I'm trying to get through. I'm trying to get through.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and if Hatate wants to go, CG7 says then we need to cash in and let him go. Ideally, if Celtic could get one last season out of him, it would be better. Indeed, I would keep him for as long as they can, but I just think they're fighting a losing battle once these things are made public. My ball, don't think it's terms and conditions. He wants to go. Brendan Rodgers has got some job in his hands now. And Andrew says, if Rodgers doesn't fancy Hatate, then I don't fancy him either. There you go. Fair enough. and Richard McGowan. Hatate will be off January latest. The league is hindering us more than ever now, unfortunately. There's merit in that statement as well. And Jamie Cameron's got a few years left in his contract, so no stress. And Mickey Moynihan, if he won't accept improved offer, then agree to sell at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Murray Lappin, he wants to go, let him. So Dennis Jameson, he's confused about some Rodgers comments lately. He said he wanted quality in, but he said he's unlikely to be going for Premiership or Championship players and more likely going for more unknown markets. So don't know where Celtic go from here. Yeah, I think that's where it's all a bit puzzling with Brendan Rodgers speaking at the minute, isn't it? On you go.
Yeah, just a question posed to you basically. Do you think there's a bit of a backtrack going on from Brendan Rodgers? I don't want to play. Well, I'm playing devil's advocate a wee bit, but at the same time, do you think there is a bit of a backtracking in the expectations? Because in his first press conference and in that video that he did with Celtic TV, he was talking about making a mark in Europe, and then last week or about 2 weeks ago, he was saying about how the Champions League is going to be a big challenge. I don't know. Was there a bit of a tone shift? Do you think there was a shift in tone? Do you think he's maybe gauged the job that he has to do, or he's gauged what he's working with?
I think the early optimism has been tempered with some realism, but bearing in mind the early optimism was also kind of fed with it. It was put out there that Celtic had some kind along the lines of 30 million to spend. Now I told you before I didn't pay attention to any of those figures because I said Celtic would spend what they spend, but all that optimism and making a mark in Europe and let's get to work, it's just dissipated on the back of the Kilmarnock result and things that have happened since. And then comments from Friday onwards, I think people were puzzled by it and kind of started asking questions when again he reiterated that comment that he works with the players that he's given, which was the same as what he hinted at was the reason he left before, when he was asked that question about what happens when a situation if players are being brought in without your say so, and he uttered that famous word terminado, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And so it smacks of that a bit, doesn't it? And I would hate for history to be repeating itself, but I think Celtic supporters are entitled to ask the question, is history starting to repeat itself? And we know the protagonist involved. I don't want to particularly go down that line, but they are asking questions in their mind. Why, having read about 30 million to spend and supposed promises of making dents and inroads in Europe, has it gone from that kind of joyous return of Brendan Rodgers and Celtic Mark II under Brendan Rodgers to the fact that they're struggling to? I mean, people say, yeah, they have spent money in the transfer market and in the August window. That's true, with the exception of Lager, Bielka and Nabrowski. The rest have been players which are, I hesitate to use the word project players, but they're not signings that set the heather alight, are they? Lager, Bielka was brought in as a replacement. Yeah, well, Lager, Bielka was brought in as a replacement for Starfelt. You were quite happy that they'd acted so swiftly. Nabrowski was brought in because the defence needed bolstered. You were happy with that. The rest, you didn't look and think, right, they're going straight into the team. Thiago Holm, Telio, Yang, guys like that. Now, you've seen glimpses of them and you think, okay, they could do a job, but they wouldn't be like a Daniel Pudenza straight in the team, excite you. And I think this was the kind of brave new world under Brendan Rodgers when he first came in. It was hinted at, and it's not materialised. And I think I used the word yesterday that Celtic supporters are getting disillusioned and disenfranchised by that. And they're now starting to say, well, what is going on? Why did you tell everybody we had a big treasure chest of money if you're not actually going to dip your hands into your pockets and spend some of it on players that are going to take you to that next level? We spoke a lot in the summer about the next level, and I spoke about how relaxed I was about the depth of the squad, and I thought the sprinkling of Brendan Rodgers fairy dust, 1, 2, 3 players here and there, didn't envisage players getting injured. You can't. That is unlucky, but none of those players have come in that I thought the club would be targeting. And I left it in the hands and trust in the process and all that. But the process is going to have to go very swiftly, Ryan, over the next 8 days to placate anybody. And I'm firmly behind Brendan Rodgers. He's got 100% backing. But I just want to see him be more hands-on, as you say, a wee bit more. I need something more from him.
Yeah.
When he's talking.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that.
About his ambitions for the club.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want him to talk about players that we are going to bring in, not markets that we think that are overpriced or we can't compete with. He's talking about the Premier League market and Championship market. I want go and ask the question of Daniel Podence if they're serious about bringing him in. Ask the question, ask serious questions, and get that business done. Because Celtic at this moment in time are badly in need of a lift. The mood music needs to change. They've won their first 2 games of the season, yeah, but I think most people say they've been unconvincing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still very positive. I'm still a glass half full guy as opposed to glass half empty. But we've been hit with an unbelievable amount of injuries. Unlucky, yeah, I get that. But they've had, did you say the other day, they had a month to replace Jota. Haven't done it. They've had, Brendan Rodgers came in, start of July? Something like that. So they've had lots of weeks of preparation to sit down and do their homework, identify targets, and bring people in that will help you in your quest to become a team of repute at the Champions League level. And nothing seems to have happened. And I think that's what's galling for a lot of the Celtic supporters, because I think, to be frank, they've seen this movie before, haven't they?
Yeah.
In the not too distant past. And we won't delve into that, but history repeating itself, and that's, they're trying to say, basically, don't fall asleep at the wheel again from a position of strength.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought you were going to be quoting a Taylor Swift song there almost. You have to the lyrics. I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending.
I am aware of Taylor Swift. I could never quote you any lyrics from her songs. That's just an age thing, isn't it, really, to be fair? But there you go.
No, anyone can like Taylor Swift, Tony, come on.
Can they? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just think you're right, we have seen this sort of movie before. We're worried because of what happened when this transpired the first time around. For me, I just don't want, as much as I like having this, and I'm aware that this sounds like me contradicting myself a tad with regard to the policy and the transfer policy and the signing of players, but I want Brendan Rodgers to stop toeing the party line a wee bit. And be, because I hear him saying, "Oh, Mark Lawwell does such a great job identifying the players. He's done a great job." Is that really how you feel? Like, or is this him just playing up to the? I don't know. Is he playing up to the media in order to keep it harmonious? Is he really happy with the business that's getting done when he's at the club? I think it's an interesting dynamic. It seems like what he wasn't happy with beforehand, with regard to the committee that was there the first time. I know that it was Peter Lawwell that was signing a lot of the players the first time around. It's Mark Lawwell this time, but he's more qualified to do so. But is he happy with that, or is he wanting maybe more of a hands-on approach with regard to getting players that he wants? I know he does get the final say in terms of who comes in, but does he maybe want more choice in choosing players? I don't know. It's all because of how, I don't know, it's not because of how secretive the club is, but the club don't really let a lot of this stuff out. So a lot of it is guesswork. You hear people saying, "Oh, Peter Lawwell's back on the scene." And you're like, no, he's a non-executive chairman. He doesn't get involved in football matters. This is Mark Lawwell and Brendan Rodgers. This is the way it works. I mean, if it was the other way about, then there would be a very unhappy fan base. But I just want Brendan Rodgers to, I don't know, I'd love to see a press conference where he's quite passionate and he's like, "I'm doing this, I'm doing that." Put some life into it, put some passion into it, and then and not convinces, but maybe reinvigorate the support a bit, because I feel like there's a bit of a malaise kicking in, and it can still be fixed just now, but it's just a slight one that's there.
I've still got every faith in Brendan Rodgers as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I just think in certain terms, and it baffles me, there's just been a real disconnect since Sunday. And it's one poor result, but I say to myself, well, they're already out of cup. And I've said long before, he's not here to win domestic trophies. He was here to win the league and take them to that fabled next stage. But the disconnect from Sunday's been unreal, and I don't think Celtic have helped themselves in that matter, in the way they've conducted themselves in the August transfer window. It has been underwhelming. I used the word. It has been, because it's not what we thought it said on the tin when Brendan Rodgers walked through the door. And as I say, I don't doubt his managerial prowess. I think the world of him as a coach and a manager, and I think the world of him, his ability to rehabilitate players and get them and improve them. But he has to be given the tools also to do the job. And whilst at the same time improving those players that are at the club, he has to be able to bring in, first team ready players, decent players, quality players, the quality that he wants, and also to make Celtic a better team. Sunday's performance, deplorable. Get that, move on. But I don't know, just that. How can it go from the start of it, kind of summer of real, people
optimism,
really excited about the future, from a position of strength again, and everybody has, as I say, you don't have to go to the distant past to talk about what happened to Celtic from a position of strength, and they just, imploded. Now, even then, there was early warning signs when they lost to Ferencváros in the Champions League, and people were saying, can't let this malaise set in. So, Callum McGregor alluded to it, don't want it to be two results, 3 results, 4 results, so
I think he's got...
don't make it 2 results, 3 results, 4 results. Do something about it, because you're sitting there with oodles of cash in the bank, which is right for spending on good players, and quality players that he seeks, not that anyone else is recommending. I don't need to tell Brendan Rodgers anything about football. He's forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. So surely this is the time, as you say, for him to turn around and say, right, my hands are on the wheel now. In the next 8 days, Michael Nicholson, I need this guy, and that guy. The mood music is lifted, because, it's still early in the season. This can be fixed, and all the kind of negativity will dissipate. But from Sunday onwards, I've been really startled and surprised by the total disconnect. And I hate it, because I feel that yourself and myself should be talking about more positive things, and a rip-roaring start to the season, and looking forward to what lies ahead in the Champions League, and looking at the squad and saying, yep, he looks good, this looks good. But injuries that you can't help, that happens, and now star players are wanting, refusing to sign new deals, with the caveat that they might want away. And I just don't understand why it's gone from there to there.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Last night when I was watching the coverage of the football, and the advert came up of the Champions League draw, I was like, I looked over and said to my dad, we should be looking forward to this, but I'm not, because of the way that the squad is currently at the minute. I'm excited for the idea. The idea of the Champions League is great, but actually going into games against Europe's best teams, the best teams in the world, because Celtic won't get an easy group. There's no chance of an easy group anyway in the Champions League. But Celtic have this knack of getting groups of death every season. It's always been that way since I've supported Celtic, or started supporting Celtic. So, I don't know why they've allowed. I don't know why they're allowing this to happen, because they know what they're going to come up against. They're going to very more than likely come up against a Bayern Munich with Harry Kane, a Manchester City with Erling Haaland, a Barcelona with Robert Lewandowski. These players are waiting in the wings. They're waiting to play. And at the moment, I would say, and this is terrible to say, Celtic are the pot 4 team that everybody want because of the way that Celtic are conducting themselves in the transfer window. It's not enough for the Champions League. They've not spent enough. They've not brought in the quality that is needed for the Champions League. So yeah, there needs to be improvements. This malaise needs to.
When Brendan Rodgers came in and they started talking about, want to make an impact in the Champions League, I did not think 8 days from the end of the transfer window that Celtic would be sitting with the squad that they had. I envisaged at least 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4, quality players coming in and enhancing an already good team, a world record treble, domestic treble winning squad, and it has been the polar opposite. And I think that's what's disappointing a bit, isn't it? I never dread the Champions League. I love the Champions League. I love being in it, and I just know the attitude will be different and the performances will be different because they have to be at that level. But I had hoped that the squad would be definitely improved. Not beyond recognition, but certainly improved, and that Celtic would have at least 3 or 4 kind of stellar signings that came in, and that's not happened. And with 8 days to go, I doubt it will happen. But it has to. Something has to happen. They have to at least get, say at least 2 players in and lift everybody again. Because I just I can't get my head around why it's been so poor since Sunday. Sunday's just, there's been a
It didn't help. The Nawrowski news did not help at all.
No,
whatsoever.
I don't think this news helped, but I think Celtic can help themselves, can't they, in the next few days by giving everybody a lift and signing players, because for once they do have the wherewithal, financial wherewithal to do that. In times gone past, they were hedging their bets to see what competition they were in. Celtic have known since the end of last season they're in the Champions League group stage. So the preparation, okay, I know the manager left in the summer, but surely some preparations and building blocks are in place there so that when Brendan Rodgers did come in, he could turn around and say, well, okay, where are we? Where are we at? And I know he's taking time to assess the squad as well, but surely that should have been done by now. And, or, Jota, you keep mentioning Jota. They've had a month to replace him. Not there. No. So, and also, I get that they're learning a new style of play as well. But I think that's where maybe guys like John Kennedy could have come into their own and said to Brendan Rodgers, Celtic were playing this for the best part of 2 years until they're fully up to speed with what you want to do. Why not play a hybrid of both styles? Because at the moment, you're not seeing it. Certainly at Kilmarnock, you didn't see any particular style, did you? But I think maybe guys like John Kenny, who were used to working under Ange for 2 years, and it wasn't broke. It didn't particularly need fixing. It certainly didn't need ripped up completely, and could maybe have took more hands-on approach. I'm just spitballing here and saying, look, this is what they did. And, you look at Greg Taylor's not looked the same, has he? Callum McGregor has not looked the same since Brendan Rodgers came in. And I'm not blaming Brendan Rodgers. I get that there's a transition going on here with Celtic in the style going from Postecoglou to Brendan Rodgers. But when guys for 2 years had a template where they just played the same way, and then someone else comes in, and I get that they want to make their impression on the team, but there has to be some kind of transition to that and still keeping some of the... I mean, Callum McGregor spoke about abandoning the principles on Sunday. That worried me greatly when he said that. It worried. So
he's not good at hiding things. He's not good at when he thinks something, and we've seen that in the dreaded season that I talk about every podcast. It seems
I admire his honesty in that, Ryan, but
I think
worries me greatly about.
he's got to be one of the players that looks himself in the mirror, because he's been one of the main culprits as to why there's a malaise, I think, in the first opening 3 games of the season. He's not playing to the levels that he could do, and we know that he's got. I don't know if that's down to tiredness, fatigue, a slight regression in his game. I don't want to say that because he's 30, 31. He should still be in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
30. Yeah, I think when McGregor doesn't play well, and I've said this to numerous people, when McGregor doesn't play well, the rest of the team suffers. He is the nucleus. He is the heartbeat. When he plays below his usual 7 out of 10, it's always a 7 out of 10. Whenever it's any lower, the rest of the team suffers as a result of it. You see players having shockers because of McGregor having a poor performance. He has that effect on people. It just so happens he's the captain as well. And I think he's a player that needs to. We need a. I think starting on Saturday, there needs to be a response. There needs to be.
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't want to disrespect St Johnstone too much, but it's the perfect game. St Johnstone at home, a team that have struggled in the past. Have struggled this season rather. They haven't had a great start to the season. But on the other hand, St Johnstone will be like, oh look, we're playing Celtic at the right time because they're struggling. There's a bit of malaise going on, there's a chance to even further compound their misery. So it's one of those ones where it's got both sides to it. But yeah, there needs to be a response on Saturday. There needs to be something tangible. There needs to be a clean sheet. There needs to be quite a few goals, I think, scored, just to ease the sort of, not pressure, but ease the sort of moaning and groaning that's going about the place, at least online. You can't really say if it's in person, but you're just gauging by the amount of people that are moaning online. You'd imagine they'll be the same in person when they're talking to their pals and that. So, yeah, there needs to be a response.
I still, as I said, I'm still firmly behind Brendan Rodgers, and he will get it right. But the start's been particularly slow, hasn't it? It's not, I don't know, there was just something lacking in both the St Johnstone Aberdeen game, and it was woefully absent against Kilmarnock. So, as you say, I think starting against St Johnstone, there's kind of reset button needing pushed here, and Celtic have to go again and show something. But I still hope that by the time Ibrox comes along on September the 3rd, that there'll be at least 3 new players in that squad. Or 2.
I think they've all got to be in the starting lineup.
Or 2. Starting lineup.
If they're of any quality, then I think they go straight in. Ain't no time like the present. So I think if you're going to bring in quality, and the squad does need an injection of quality, I would say yes, they do have a lot of good, solid players that did well for Ange Postecoglou. But I think there needs to be players that suit Brendan Rodgers' system as well. It's all good. It's all well and good inheriting a good squad that Ange Postecoglou did well with, but there will be players out there that will suit. I mean, there'll be players at the club that suit Brendan Rodgers' style. We've seen that in Matt O'Reilly. I thought he was one of our better players on Sunday. I know there wasn't too many good performers, if any, but I think his was the most acceptable performance, apart from maybe Yang, but Haksabanovic at the end, he was trying to make things happen. But O'Reilly seems to be the one that's really benefiting from this new system. And if we can play through him more, then I don't think we'll have any problems on Saturday. But I think there needs to be more players that will suit Brendan Rodgers' style of play, sort of throughout the squad. And that opens you up to different players, because there's players that maybe wouldn't have worked under Ange Postecoglou that will work under Brendan Rodgers. There's got to be players that wouldn't do as well in that sort of pressing system that'll do better in a possession-based system. That's just the way football works. Different mentalities and play styles suit different players. But it's very much a watch this space. I'm just hoping that this next 8-9 days are busy, because I think they have to be.
Now I'm going to flick this up, Ryan. Gary Burns. You would think, listening to Tony and Ryan, that Celtic are bottom of the league with 0 points. Celtic need a bit of a reality check, plus Hatate's got 3 years left. So what is the panic about? I'm not panicking. I have stressed the good points about Celtic. They've won their first 2 games. They are top of the table. I've said I'm firmly behind the manager, but I'm at pains to explain the kind of doom and gloom that's engulfed everybody since Sunday. I'm still very upbeat and positive. You heard me saying I'm a glass half full guy as opposed to glass half empty. So I don't know where you're entitled to your opinion, Jerry, but I disagree completely. And Pete McGee's clapping Jerry Burns. It's like, okay, we are just pointing things out that a lot of Celtic supporters are concerned.
I don't think we're panicking.
I'm not.
We've seen this movie before, but
Yeah.
we just don't want Celtic falling into the same pitfalls that they have fell into in the past. You know, there is evidence to support the fact that this has happened before, and we're issuing the warnings or the cautions that can't happen again. You know, from a position of strength, Celtic can't go back the way and go into a position of weakness. You know, going into this season,
History
it's such a
repeats
great
itself.
position.
Oh, yeah, correct. And Pete McGee coming back in and saying Celtic lost one game of football. Yeah, we've made
That's
that
a crisis in
point as well,
Celtic
Pete.
in Celtic's.
But they
Celtic
lost
losing
one game
games
of
of football.
football, yeah, and they're out of cup competition. So there you go. So
You know, it's losing one game though is a crisis for Celtic. That's just the standards that are at Celtic at the moment, or they have been for the past 10, 15 years. You know, it's that winning mentality that's been installed just due to the dominance that Celtic have had in the Scottish game. You lose one game, and because it isn't normal, because you almost expect Celtic to win most games. I know you can't go in expecting to win games, but just due to the firepower that they've got, it's a bit of a surprise when it does happen. You just want to see Celtic playing into the best of their abilities, and when they do play to the best of their abilities, they will win more often than not. It's just when the performances are lacking, then you've got reason to criticise, I think.
Stevie Boy coming in. Oh no, he's agreeing with McGinlay. No, he said
I'll get you all on the boat. I'll get you all on the boat.
Hazel, Finn, I'm with Hazel as well. This weekend, Celtic need to show the supporters what they're made of, lift the spirits, because the Celtic supporters are all getting a bit down, which is what I've been talking about. It's the mood music since Sunday. We're not having a pop per se. We're just musing on what has happened to the optimism from the summer, which is now, with 8 days left in the window, just dissipated by the sounds of it, and voicing some Celtic supporters' concern. We're still very much behind Brendan Rodgers, very much behind the team, and very much behind Michael Nicholson and the board to do what's required in the days that are left in the window. Hopefully, Pete McGee. Ryan, if you watched Celtic in the 90s, you'd know what a crisis looks like. I watched Celtic in the 90s, Pete McGee. I know what a crisis is, yes. Exactly. So you can't hit him with that because he wasn't around at the time. I was around too, yes. And we've not hit those times, and hopefully the club will never go through those times again in the 90s. But people are entitled to their opinion as well, Pete. Good, bad, or indifferent, you know.
I've been very fortunate in my Celtic supporting life that Celtic have won the vast majority of titles when I've been alive. You know, but I think that breeds a winning mentality. So when it doesn't happen, there are reasons for concern. You know, because it is the status quo at the end of the day, and you got that.
Celtic dads like me and Pete McGee will point out, Ryan, it's not always like that. Yeah.
I'm aware we've been
experienced to back up. Yeah, exactly, guys. That's been an hour. I've actually enjoyed it, despite the fact people say it's like been very doom and gloom. Pete McGee, Tony, opinion should be informed. He says, Pete, I'll give Ryan the benefit of the doubt on the fact that he wasn't around at the time when Celtic were going through the bad times in the 90s. So I think that's a fair kind of excuse for holding the views that he does. He is aware that Celtic were poor in the 1990s. Kenny Todd, Tony the Eternal Optimist, will have a run of form now. I'm like you, Kenny. I believe that too. I've got every faith in the manager. And here's Pete again. Here's a quote for you. Don't panic, Mr. Mainwaring. That's from Dad's Army. There you go, which was a series back in the day that most Celtic dads will know all about. But hey, there you have it. Forget Dad's army, Celtic's army now, says Lanky. Yeah, so Ryan, you're excused from not knowing everything about the 1990s, but Celtic were poor. Believe it, take it from your old dad here, all right? We'll leave it there. But I think we'll leave it there as well. An hour and 5 minutes, Ryan. It can only get better, can't it? We need something. We need the players and the manager to lift everybody Saturday a response. We need the board to lift everybody by giving the manager the tools to bring in some first team ready players before now and the end of the window. We shall take it from there. But we'll be back tomorrow to do all again. Been on longer than an hour. It's not like you, Tony. Diaz88. I don't particularly notice the clock, to be honest. But I think at one point there was over 600, nearly 700 people joining us live, which is wonderful. We thank you. I try to read out your comments, but today they were just off. It was off the charts and off the scale. A Celtic world. Who do you think you're kidding, Mr. Haggerty? Yep. Living proof. I've said before, living proof. You can fool all the people all the time. That's me, yeah, indeed. Guys, thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. I know you enjoy the toing and throwing in the comment section. We enjoy the fact that you come in and give us your thoughts. Everybody's thoughts on Celtic at this moment in time are different. Myself, Ryan's, Pete McGee's, everybody in the comment section. We get that. It's but I think the tie that binds us and unites us is the fact that we just want what's best for Celtic and we want to see the club perform on the park and be successful. And if they're not doing that, it affects everybody and it affects everybody in different ways. Mm-hmm. Celtic have no divine right to win football matches. We get that. We understand that. We're humble enough to accept that, but it doesn't mean you can't comment and criticise if you think things aren't going right. So that's why we do it, what we do every day, and we try and bring it to you in some form of, I was going to say light entertainment, but it was maybe hard and heavy entertainment today, Ryan, because, well, say we're not happy. We're always happy, but things could be better, yeah?
There's always room for improvement, especially after that result of the weekend. But yeah, Celtic are still in a really good position. They've got the power's in their hands and in their wallets and in their purses or whatever. So they need to go and spend it. They know that the funds are available, so go and do it. What's the risk? There's profits coming through the door, so get the best players possible in. Let's flex our muscles. That's it. Let's flex our muscles. Let's make it happen.
Hazel Finn, we'll end with this. Well said. Let's get to work. Indeed, everybody get to work. Brendan, Michael Nicholson, the players, myself, Ryan are going to go to work now, having enjoyed the past hour and 8, 9, 10 minutes, whatever it is, the hour and 8 minutes. But guys, we shall be back tomorrow. We'll do it all again. Hope you've enjoyed today. And if you have, then you know what I'm going to say. Strapline running along the bottom. Hit that subscribe button and help us in our quest to help you by providing top quality journalism covering the club that you love. And subscribe to the Celtic Way website, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Ryan, thank you very much. Stellar contribution as always. I'm sorry. Well, actually, I'm glad you weren't around in the 90s. You wouldn't have enjoyed it. There you go. Good to have you here in the present.
I was there for 3 years. I can't remember it. I was there for 3 years. 3 years of the 90s.
Yeah,
I came around and they stopped at 10. So it's not been too bad.
Airbrushed from history. Airbrushed. There you go, guys. Thank you so much. So many commenters today. I tried to get through lots of them. We'll be back tomorrow. If your comment didn't get read out, feel free to come back in. But we can't do it without you. We enjoy it. We love it. It's not always plain sailing, it's not always happy Mondays, but we'll see how it goes. Take care. All the best. Ryan, thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.